Mr. Jitendra Bhargava is joining us right now on the phone line to share his perspective as well. Mr. Bhargava, good afternoon. Always a pleasure chatting with you. Looking at what the sources have told Nayantara at this point of time, the story that we've been tracking about Jet likely to take the NCLT route. Did you see that coming?
Well, the way banks have conducted the matters, I think that was the only way they would have landed the Jet Airways airline too. You see, these kind of processes, what banks have done as public government institutions is that procedures get precedence over result. So when you were negotiating with Etihad or the other three companies which had submitted expression of interest, there is something called back channel talks to look at how are they gauging whether they are serious bidders or they're not. My reading is that after day before, when Vinay Dubey and these people, senior official people, met the lenders, they perhaps got a clear hint that there is no prospect of any bidder coming, putting in money and Jet being revived. That's one part. The second part, of course, is that as senior management people, we would have expected some more responsible act. Now, who is in charge of Jet Airways today is the question. Who do the employees who are still on the rolls of the company go to for any clarification that they have? But I quite agree with Nayantara, there is seriously no option. The one is, of course, to say there is no way forward. But to keep giving an idea and giving it and showing it in public domain that something is being done, that's the process going. But as far as the future of Jet Airways is concerned, I think a big question mark has been put now.
But we just talk about, what's happening as far as the entire aviation pack is concerned. Do you think that even reviving the airline itself will be big? So, even if a bidder comes in to get the market share, to get the confidence of public back, will take really some time?
It's not a question of time. After all, there have been airlines which have come in when the major airlines existed. Take the example about 12 years, 13 years ago when Indigo stepped into the market. You already had other airlines there, but they still could get onto the number one position in a very calibrated manner. So one has to have deep pockets, but as I said, I've been saying it very clearly, the market dynamics should not be lost sight of. India is a price-sensitive market. The future lies in low-cost airlines. The full-service carriers, including Vistara, Air India, can continue, but they will keep bleeding. So somewhere down the line, they got to do a reality check and say, we need to tweak up business model. So anybody wanting to take Jet Airways and perhaps thinking that they would continue to operate Jet Airways as in the business model that it had, I don't think would have been a good proposition for anyone, because at the end of the day, anybody putting in money wants to see some returns coming maybe 2, 3, 4 years later, but not sustaining more and more losses and putting more and more money. I think Air India's example needs to be looked at. 2012, 30,000 crores committed. There has been periodic infusion of funding, but is Air India any more stable than what it was earlier? It still requires infusion time and again from the government. Now, this is because it has a business model of a full-service carrier, and in our market dynamics, it is a low-cost airline which are dictating the fare structures in the market with 70% market share. How do you expect a full-service carrier to make money? Now, this is simple common sense, in my opinion, which is not being read on the wall. The writing is very clear, but they're simply not willing to read the writing on the wall.
Mr. Bhargava, what is, your sense, with respect to the kind of top-level exits that have happened in Jet Airways in the last couple of days, in the last 2 days odd, I would say? Is it that the management was completely disillusioned? They did not see any ray of hope, that the fear definitely is looking difficult? Or were there could there have been any disagreements with the lenders?
No, I don't think there will be a question of disagreement, because there's very little. It's only a question of, is there a chance of revival or not? And if they got a clear indication from the lenders that there is no future, they may have taken it. But my reading of the situation is that when you are in senior position, you are not guided by your own personal ambitions. You are serving the airline, you're holding the position of a CEO and other senior management positions. Now, how can you leave the airline in the lurch? Perhaps you would have lost one more month. By that time, a final decision would have been taken on Jet's future. But why complicate matters? Why add to the chaos that already exists? I would have expected a bit more responsibility and a bit more commitment to the airline that they've served.
Right, Mr. Bhargava. Thank you so much, Thank you so much for taking out time for us and telling us, what essentially do you make of this entire jet saga, which is now getting into its final.